host of those instances, and if there are multiple instances on one server, all those kinds of things. In a lot of cases can be a little bit hard to kind of manage without a tool like SQL Elements. So what SQL Elements was designed to be able to do is to kind of give you a tool that's always going to be looking out on the environment to see what instances of SQL are being stood up and to let you know about those instances. And when we talk about the instances that are being stood up, we're talking about the full range of SQL Server platforms in terms of the actual edition. So even SQL Express editions will be picked up. That doesn't mean that you have to manage those editions as they're being stood up. And so part of the discussions that we've had, and when I was at PASS, I can tell you that we would talk to people, and it was kind of the school of one or two schools of thought, which is the first school of thought is I don't want to know anything about SQL Express, even if they are stood up. I'm not responsible for them, and I don't need to know about them. But then you have the other school of thought, which are people want to know when SQL Express is stood up so that they can know that people are trying to do those things that maybe they shouldn't be doing, and then you can take those either under management or help that person that's standing up this application that they decided they want to install in the environment without telling anybody. Help them to understand and guide them through the support process of the SQL Server environment. So either way, with this product, what it's kind of designed to do is to, like I said, look out on the environment, see what instances are out there, help you to identify them when they do come online, and then you can make the decision whether or not you want to actually manage them with the tool. And if you determine that you want to manage them, then what we're going to be able to do is then, from that point forward, do some kind of fundamental health checks on those instances. This product is going to do a little bit of monitoring. Bear in mind, it's not going to tell you, the victims of deadlocks or, blocking incidents and those types of things. What we're really focused on here with this product are the fundamental areas of SQL Server being addressed. And when we say fundamental areas, we mean things like backups. We mean things like, are the check DBs taking place? Is the drive going to fill up? Is the SQL Server instance actually responding to requests? Those simple things. And so with that said, we're going to be able to provide that for you at a high level kind of enterprise level view, as well as from a instance or even down to the database level. So this particular view that we're in, we've done a discovery. We can see a summary up here at the top right portion of the screen where we see the instances of SQL that are up, those that are down, and those that are critical. We also get a summary of my environment, and you can kind of see that broken down on the right side here as well. Just beneath that, you're going to see there's some tags, and the size of the tag really is based on the number of instances that are in that tag. And we'll talk about what tags are for in a minute. On the left side of the screen, you have kind of an overall high-level overview of the health check recommendations that are available. And on any of these, you can have it show you more details about these areas, and it'll also give you some knowledge around some information in terms of what it is that needs to be addressed and how you overcome these issues. Now, this is all at the kind of environment or enterprise level, if you will. We also have top databases by size and top databases by activity, and then a rundown of those instances just beneath that are going to be part of what I'm managing right now, as you can see. Now, at any given time, I can drill into these areas. Like if I wanted to go into one of these instances, let's say my Big 12 TT01, if I click on that instance, then it's going to take me down into the instance level. And so we're going to be presented with some other information here. First of all, we're going to see for this particular instance what tags that instance is a member of. And once again, that's going to come into play when we start building our Explorer views. On the right side of the screen, we have a summary of the instance information. So when we talk about the instance, we're also talking about the host that instance is running on. And so that's what we see here, which is this machine that you see. And I can click on that, and it will tell me further specific to that hardware, as we can see the amount of free space on the drives, what's being used, as well as the amount of memory. All those kind of things are available to us, as well as physical and logical CPUs, the number of NICs, all that kind of good stuff. And keep in mind also the version of the OS that we're sitting on, 2008 R2, as we can see here. And so you get all that good information, what member of domain you're a member of, all that kind of stuff. But also notice that we have some logical groupings of the instances that are being hosted as well on that same host. And you can see those are all broken down here for me as well. So we've got actually a number of instances being sitting on this particular host. And so that's good information, especially from a licensing perspective. If we're trying to get our head around licensing, this type of information is going to be very vital in those types of situations. Now, as we scroll down a little bit on this instance summary, we can see a configuration settings area as well. And once again, we're going to just be presenting here at the instance level the configuration settings for the instance, as you can see here. So a lot of information available to you at your fingertips, and that's kind of the idea, is that as you manage your SQL Server environment moving forward, this is all available to you in one place. It's easy to get to, and with very little effort. Now, as we have drilled down into this instance level, at any given time, I could switch to another instance that I'm managing. But in our case, just to kind of point out, these checks that we're performing, as you can see, once again, even at the instance level, as opposed to the enterprise level, we can see now specifics in regards to the details of the things that we have identified. It'll tell us particularly where those areas that we need to address our administration needs to be where that needs to be handled. So you can see all of that information as well, along with knowledge base data tied to that. Scrolling down, now we're looking at top databases, but now this is for the instance itself as opposed to the entire enterprise. And since we're now at the instance level, we also now see the databases being hosted from that instance. And so in any of these instances or databases, once again, we could drill down into them. And as we drill down into it, we're going to get the specific configuration settings for that database, particular to where the database files are located, how much space is being used, what our autogrowth settings are, all that kind of good stuff, as well as some of the other specifics in terms of when specific things of administration have taken place, last DBCC, check DB, the last backups for logs, fulls, and differentials, all that good stuff, as well as the size of the log. So it'll really, like I said, it's a great way to be able to have everything available at your fingertips. Now, for those of you that are using Diagnostic Manager now, a lot of this information, some of it will be available to you. And so if you kind of think about what Diagnostic Manager does, obviously it's one of our flagship products, been around for 10 years. That's a real, heavy hitting kind of deep dive, full-blown enterprise monitoring solution. This particular product is not as much geared towards troubleshooting and drilling into specifics like deadlocks or blocking and those types of things. What this is more focused on is the full picture of what's going on in your environment with not as much depth. And so the point of this is, and when we talk to people, like I keep bringing up past, but when we're at past, we talk to a lot of our customers and they say, well, we've got 100 instances of SQL, and of those 30 or 40 of them, maybe they have licenses for our Diagnostic Manager product. So then you got another 70 instances sitting out there, which is and you'd ask the question, well, are those other 70 instances not important enough to buy Diagnostic Manager? And the answer is, well, yeah, we don't have, they're not as critical enough to have an investment for them. But then when you ask them, well, that's, I understand that they're, you want to make that investment, but do you still want to make sure that backups are happening? Do you still want to make sure that at the very least the server's online and responding to queries? The fundamental things are taking place? And then the answer is, oh, well, yeah, always, yes. Well, we definitely want to make sure those things are happening. We just don't want to spend all of the licensing costs tied to that for a deep dive monitoring tool for these instances. They're not important enough. And so they're kind of falling between not being important enough, but at the same time still important enough to where you still want to know about those basics. And so that's where Elements comes into play, because at a very affordable cost, you get the full coverage of your entire environment. You can get an unlimited license of instances to manage it the way that the licensing model is for this, and really, like I said, allow you some peace of mind in terms of knowing that as things get brought online, you're going to see them and know about them. So let's talk about that a little bit. As we're going through our day-to-day with this product, every day it's going to go out and look for new instances. And when it finds a new instance, you'll first off see that on the dashboard. It's going to show you that on this view here. But you're also going to have under the instances area, you're going to have where you'll see managed, discovered, and ignored. So in this case, I have one instance that actually has been discovered. Now I have the choice at this point to add that instance to be managed, or obviously I can ignore it. If I decide to ignore it, it'll still show up. It'll be on the ignored list, but it will not be checked for health checks, and you won't need to. There won't be anything that's being done to it from a monitoring perspective, but you'll still know that that instance exists. The other thing that I would point out here is that as we decide that, say, we want to add this instance, in this case SQL Prod 2, you'll be able to go in and add the instance, and as you do that, click on Next, You'll be able to fill out your credentials here for how we're going to connect to that server as we go in and collect the information. And then on the next screen here, you're going to be able to actually go in and assign metadata to this instance that can be used to create your views in terms of the management views we're going to show you in a minute. So in our case, let's say this is Frank Richards. He's the owner of this particular instance. He's located in the Smith Tower, floor 3, rack 5. These have already obviously been populated. As we add to these things, they will be on the list for the next time, so we can keep using that information, so we can be consistent about it. And in this case here, we'll just say this is our ERP application DB. So then at that point, we can then determine what tags are associated to this instance. So as we bring these over, whatever the case may be, whatever we decide, and then when we're done, we click on Finish, and we've successfully added the instance. And so now you'll see it's now part of our managed instances here that we've identified. So now it's being part of what's being monitored. And so keep in mind that what I've just shown you is if you were to add an instance without auto registration on. You also have the ability, if you notice under the administration section, if you look over here under discovery, you can also tell it to enable automatic registration, which is basically saying no matter what is identified, go ahead and bring that in and make it and put it under the managed grouping. So it's at your discretion if how you want to go about that, if you want to enable that or not. Now, once we've started to monitor the instances of SQL, as I mentioned before, we're going to be doing some health checks. Those health checks will get flagged on anything will show up here on the dashboard, but you also have the option of having those emails or having those sent to you via email as well. So just keep in mind that that's something else as well that's nice to have. Now, let's talk about the Explorer views a little bit. And so you've got all this information, and that's really a big part of what this tool is all about, is helping you make sense of the data that's been collected. And so if you go to the Explorer view over here, what you're going to see is exactly that. So you're going to see a way to be able to group the instances that you have under management, and we have these items under these different categories, and expect to see these listing of items grow considerably as we develop and mature the product. So that's definitely one of the areas where you'll see some changes down the pike. Other ways in which you'll see changes is in the way we do discovery, since we're on that note. In terms of the discovery itself, right now we're using just essentially the browser service. Whatever is registered through the browser service is going to get picked up. That's going to change, and we've got a lot of requests to obviously have that improved, and that's coming down the pike as well with the next release, which we're going to be able to, if you've ever used our admin tool set, you'll actually be able to assign segments on the network or IP ranges, and it'll be able to scan. And so even if your instances of SQL maybe are sitting on other domains and things like that, we're going to help you make it easier for you to identify those instances and discover them as they're being brought up into your environment. But in this case here, like I said, you've got the different views, the different categories, and you'll see that as you change these things, it'll automatically update what it is that you have in your filters that you've set up, and as well as your view selection. So if I were to go out to data size as an example, and I wanted to know the data size, let's say by data center, then we could have a breakdown of how much data we're actually hosting for each data center for the instances of SQL that we're managing. And so that, that's just an example of some of the stuff that you can do here under this Explorer view. Now, most of the stuff right now is instance specific. In the upcoming versions, you'll see, just kind of give you some information in terms of the roadmap. We plan on also giving you abilities to associate metadata to your databases as well as to the instance. And we're going to provide you with a lot more flexibility in terms of the type of information you would want to store about those instances. And my understanding is some point down the road we'll also see the ability to have your own custom fields that will be tied to not only the database but as well as to the instance also. So that's something to look forward to. But in terms of what you're seeing here, you can use these filters if you want to, and on the fly it'll go ahead and filter out the data specific to your selection. So it does that and automatically updates your views. And so all this, obviously this information is really helpful in terms of being able to just very quickly get a handle on answering a question that might normally take you a lot longer to answer, because you have to pull up Excel and you have to go tally up the instances, and you have to make sure that the count's right. You have to make sure that everything is what you expect it to be based off of what you know that exists in your environment. But obviously this is to try to bring all of that information into one centralized location. Now the way this product works is pretty straightforward. It uses a Tomcat web server to be able to host out the web pages. It's really easy to get up and running. So once it's up and running, it'll start collecting data for your instances, like I said, on a daily basis. At any given time, if you want to force the discovery of your instances, you can click this button right here, and that'll initiate a discovery at that point in time rather than waiting till the scheduled discovery time when it would normally run. So you have, like I said, a lot of information. Now, let's say, for instance, something comes along, you've got a check that's being performed, but maybe there's an exception. You could dismiss these items. And so on any of these, if you were to dismiss it, what it'll do is it'll dismiss that particular issue for that, in this case, database. And once it goes back to an OK status and it would then come back to a critical status, would be the only way in which it would then pop back up is once it's been corrected and then goes back into a warning state. Would you see it pop back up onto the alert list, if you will? But so hopefully this has been a pretty good overview for you in terms of the Elements product. What I want to make sure we do is answer any questions that you might have. I've got Mark Slavens as well that's moderating, and if you have questions, myself and Mark are going to be answering the questions here for the next 5 or 10 minutes. And so through the questions facility within GoToMeeting, or sorry, GoToWebinar, if you'd like to ask any questions that you might have in terms of the SQL Elements product, we'd be happy to begin taking those questions. With that being said, I don't see any questions at this point in time that are popping up, so you can be the first if you'd like, just to ask the questions. Now, in terms of the actual demonstration, I've kind of covered a lot of the material that I wanted to show you. And really the kind of main thing to just keep in mind here is that if you want to see how this works for yourself in your own environment, feel free to just go out to our website at idera.com. And if you go to the products page and you'll see under SQL Elements, you can click on that link here and you can download this trial. Now, since we're on the page, it might make sense as well to talk a little bit about licensing. And as I mentioned before, this tool has been designed to be able to handle very large environments at a very affordable price. It's definitely geared towards that. In fact, you can get an unlimited license for a little under $15,000. That can cover thousands of instances. So they're really good pricing model in terms of being able to have coverage for the entire environment. So the idea is wherever you sit in this band, you would typically buy the licensing grouping one notch above you. Now, if any given time you need to upgrade, and for whatever reason, you can always upgrade, and it'll just be an incremental cost to the difference from one bucket to the next. So you don't have to go rebuy the whole license if you ever want to upgrade down the road. But like I said, typically what people have been doing is just buying the licensing layer, if you will, above the whatever instances they might have. The other thing I would also mention, going back into the tool, is that and did I lose the tool? Oh, there it is. When we're into the actual product here, something that just is worth noting is that on the very right side of the screen, if you decide that you want to trial this product, when you go out to the dashboard, and there we go, you'll be able to, as you look at this information, you'll see there's some good data here on the actual page, and I'm actually missing the button that I'm used to seeing. Where are you? It might be at the instance level. I don't see it, but you will be able to. Oh, here it is. It's being covered up by GoToMeeting. So there's a little red gear over here on the very right side. If you click on that, one of the things you'll see is there's a community forum. Real important that everybody, even if you're trialing the product, if you have suggestions or things that you want to provide us in terms of what you'd like to see in this product moving forward. Like I said, this is a version 1 product. We're still getting new features in there, and we want to make sure we get the ones that people need the most. And so what the forum's allowing you to do here is to actually identify what are the things that you'd like to see in this product, and then other people can vote on those things to basically say that they'd be interested in those things as well. And as we see these items pop up and we see these votes come up, it'll help us to prioritize those things that we're going to add to the product moving forward. So we got a lot of time expected to be put into this product, a lot of development still to come with this product. It's obviously a version 1 product, and we're really excited about it. And I think that based on the people that we've already worked with this tool that have already purchased it, we see a lot of people that are really using this tool and utilizing it to do their inventory and management of their SQL Server instances and helping them through that process. So with that being said, let me see if I've got any other questions that are outstanding. I think in this case, Mark's done a pretty good job of answering most of the questions. Um, So the first question is, let's see, we have the browser service turned off on several servers. How does the registration happen on these instances? So for right now, this is from Larry. Right now, there wouldn't be a way in terms of actually discovering those instances. Now you can always go in and add them manually, and obviously that's not the spirit of what the tool's been designed to do, and that's why in the next release we plan on enhancing the discovery feature. So just be patient, Larry. We're going to get something out here probably within the next quarter to help you with that. Um, is this easy to browse via portable mobile devices like the iPad? It will certainly render on an iPad. I haven't had any exposure to it, but yeah, you would be able to do that, assuming that you had the right URL to the website that's being hosted. It looks like Mark just answered the same thing that I just said. Um, so we have what we really need is a product that catalogs our SQL Server instances and lets us query all sort of information about them. So, I mean, in some respects, Elements can do that, and I'd say then, and also in some respects that that's where we're also kind of taking it, is to be that central location of information, if you will, for the instances that you're managing. And so not as much an administration tool or performance monitoring tool as much as it is in a management tool. So that's really the focus on this product. And so right now there's a lot of information that as an instance has been added and is being managed, where you're going to be able to pull a lot of information. And what we're trying to do is make it easy for you to get further information, as well as be able to have your own library of data that you can maintain based on what you want to keep in terms of the your own maybe custom fields as well. So that's something we're looking to do. So are the data and charts shown in the demo are real time that data pull from the SQL instances? I believe they do a polling on some of that information, but I don't know, honestly, Gary, how often that polling is. It'd be something I have to follow up with. I would say that if you're worried about overhead with this product, it's pretty negligible in terms of we're not doing that much, monitoring, I should say, or polling of the instances. I wouldn't worry about that if that's where your questions comes from. Um, can you do a physical logical CPU count based on the server location, build version, etc.? That's a great question, and I think the answer right now, unfortunately, I don't think we are doing that, but it's a great suggestion for product management. Let me make sure of that. So if I do explore, yeah, we that's not something that right now we would be able to do, but I think it's something that you'll probably see added because it's obviously from a licensing standpoint that makes a lot of sense. And so I will definitely add that as feedback to Vicky Harp, who's the product manager for this. It's a great way to be able to view this. By the way, on the second note, in terms of this data that you're seeing here, one of the other kind of things we're looking to make sure we get very quickly in this product is additional reporting functionality with this. So you'll be able to export data, get it out of the product, and be able to take this and show it to other people that maybe don't even have the console. But just something, a little food for thought there. So let's see here. I'm not sure how we're doing. I think we've covered most of the questions. With that being said, I'd like to thank everybody for attending this webcast. Feel free to continue asking questions here for the next 5 minutes or so. I'm going to go ahead and close out of the webcast, though, in terms of the actual demonstration and audio. But I want to thank everybody for attending and remind everybody that if you'd like to try this product, there's nothing limiting about this product other than the amount of time that it will work for. So I think it's a 14-day trial, and you can play around with it and see everything and start adding the instances and managing them. So once again, thank you. My name is Bullet Manali, one of the sales engineers at Idera. Please stop by and check it out and try it out for yourself. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.